Hello everyone, welcome to the Red Room again. Today, for a change, we decided to talk about role-playing games in a constructive way. This is but don't.
No one is going to watch
don't hit stop. We will be, of course, saying bad things about people anyway, but in a constructive way. So this is a continuation from yesterday's video. We want to talk a little more about how you can actually play a story in a role-playing game while role-playing and not doing a course on creative writing. So rant away.
Okay, so let's start by addressing what you shouldn't do. First thing, you shouldn't use a story game, because story games, despite the name, they aren't really appropriate for playing role playings which are rich in story, because, well, it's basically the same thing. They appeal to the same people, not all, but some of the people who write those long backgrounds are the same who are attracted to story games. That means that these are people who like writing. They were frustrated writers probably, and
we are all frustrated writers. We are all frustrated writers.
Yeah, but those are more frustrated than the others. So they keep on wanting to be writers while role-playing games, and that doesn't make sense. They can be frustrated, and well, yes, they should be doing something else.
The story games, the biggest focus is on building the story, building the story,
but
and not
building the
playing
story.
A character.
Yeah. So, and I think I'm not wrong about that, that the way to build story in a role-playing game is by role-playing a character and doing things, and then eventually you will have a story to tell about. If you are just basically doing something like, let's do a comparison. If you are playing a game and the whole objective is to solve a puzzle or to defeat something, you are playing it strategically, and you are probably not role-playing a character. You are...
Yes, but you're also probably not playing a story. You are solving a puzzle.
You aren't. So, but usually when that happens, players are around the table and they are discussing things off character with the goal of finding something, destroying something, killing the bad guys. If you are playing a story game, you are doing basically the same thing, but with the goal of building a story, but you are not creating story in the
game.
Way.
It's actually the same thing. So
it's the same precisely
approach.
The same thing. Yeah. I think that's why the guys in the Forge, the ones who invented the GNS theory and all that, they hated lots of games, but they had some respect by the gamists, which were Dungeons and Dragons, all that. They had some respect for just dungeon crawling, and
I think they took advantage, because probably they sold out their theory to some people that were tired of playing Dungeons and Dragons. That's why they didn't say bad things about Dungeons and Dragons.
Well, they probably also said bad things about some of those guys, those who wanted to play stories, because they said, "Oh, that game is not for that." But it is. It can be. It's nothing to do with the rules. The rules are just something. They convinced people that they needed rules if they wanted to play a story and not just a game about a game is that's what they call it, a game about objectives and puzzles and defeating enemies. You have to have these rules, these stupid rules, moves and clocks and spotlights and all that. That's bullshit. Basically, that's all bullshit.
So we're going to talk about how we normally do.
Rant is over. So.
Yes, so you can stop now, or you can stay tuned, and maybe we will say something interesting.
Yeah,
I highly doubt it. But we're going to talk about how we normally play games in our approach that is a bit like the soap opera style.
Mm-hmm. And let's explain first that you should pick the soap opera without any prejudice and bias against it, because if you take from the soap opera those corny things that like relationships and romance, not relationships but love and passion,
evil twin sister, well, the evil twin sister can be useful,
or brother, or all those betrayals and when they are related to couples and love and all that. So take that away. What remains of a soap opera? The cast of characters, the places where they meet, the relationships, but not in a amorous sense, the relationships, whatever they are.
Conflict, friendships.
The conflicts.
Betrayals.
Yes,
Not
if
romantic.
they are intrigue. And dark secrets. Well, basically this.
So an example for that is Twin Peaks.
Yeah, of
it's
course.
the obvious example.
Yes, because it picks the concept, the soap opera concept. It doesn't take away all those elements. It uses it, but it spins it off, and then what you get, it's a surreal soap opera. It's a different thing. So
I would say Battlestar Galactica is also a
yeah,
good example, the new one.
Yes, that's it. Well, there are several. Not many in those genres. Science fiction, not really. Perhaps Star Trek. Yeah, not maybe. Completely, but it has some elements of it. It depends on the series. So okay, so you pick up the soap opera, you take off the pink stuff, and you just concentrate on having characters and dilemmas and conflicts. Okay, this may be a little bit hard work at first if you think about describing characters and places and all the connections between them. Yeah, it's kind of a hard work. But there's an advantage to that. For example, I'm going to show this here. This is Welcome to St. Cloud. This is based on Twin Peaks. We have here 100 pages, a little more than that. Characters and story seeds and places and dark secrets and a few ideas to develop some more stories. This takes a while to prepare. Of course, I don't have to prepare all this because this was meant to be sold. When I wrote this a long time ago, just to be played by my group, it was much smaller, less than half of this, and it still worked. We played this for this time. We played it for 12. It's like this, the proper way. 12 game sessions, and we played 1/3 of that content, probably less than that. Do you remember how many sessions you played the first time? Much more than that, probably 20 or more. So, but well, that time I still had something to prepare because there were no plot hooks, and so it was less developed. You were doing it while we were playing this time. But well, anyway, even though I had to prepare some previous to the game sessions, but it wasn't all that much, just a few minutes to think about what is going to happen. Well, this time, the only thing I had to do was to watch a bit of the videos that we recorded from the game sessions, but that's because I have a bad memory. So if you don't have a bad memory, you could basically don't do anything else, but just read it and be prepared, and then just I would say that probably the surreal soap opera is a bit easier for horror, but it can be used for other genres. It could be used for other genres, and even if I'm not going into that. I know you want to go. So okay, this was just an example. Okay, so but if you want to play like that and you don't want to do it yourself, there are some books and some games that are prepared for that. And some of them are not even written by you, and so we most of them. Well, I'm not sure about. I'm pretty sure there are much more than I know because well, there are lots of games that I don't know about, and even the source books, because I may know the game, but I don't have one of the source books. If I just have the core book, usually a core book can be used to prepare something like that. So, for example, Cyberpunk 2020, which is a game geared towards action and all that, but there's a game, a very good game, source book. I mean. A very good source book that has all this Night City. So Night City has characters and companies and corporations and events and gangs and adverts and plot hooks. You basically have the whole city there. You have maps, equipment probably, You have a lot of content there. You probably don't even need to go someplace else until you get out of the night city, of course. And if you're just going to play, let's say 10 game sessions or something like that, if you're going to play the Cyberpunk for years, it's not enough. But if you're going to play a small campaign, it's probably more than enough. And it's just an example of a game that already has something like that prepared. There are others, of course, and I'm going to give you some few examples that there are games that I played. So this is not similar to Night City. This is Fallen Angels for Cult. Completely different.
It's a campaign, right?
Yeah, this is a campaign, but this is a campaign that takes place in New York, and it has some information that you can use, and even what is here, you can use it for something else. So you have some descriptions about neighborhoods in Manhattan, I think. Well, New York, anyway. Yeah. Not just Manhattan. So you have the South Bronx and Harlem and Upper West Side and the Upper East Side and Central Park and something more. East Village, Greenwich Village, Midtown, Chelsea, so Italy, Chinatown. So just a few paragraphs, not much, 3 or 4 pages, but some information about the world of cult and the supernatural in these places. It's not entirely enough, probably. You'll need some more information, but then you have something more. Not the cult cosmology, because you wouldn't do that for New York, but you have some description about Children of the Night, which are vampires, and the death squads, which aren't obviously supernatural, but
gangs.
Yeah, and gangs, street gangs. There's a description of a gang here that is composed by vampires, and then you have other characters that are related to the vampires and some friends of the vampires from the artistic community, and some other information here about other creatures. Werewolves, I think, not quite werewolves.
Kind of
Wolven,
werewolves.
I think it's Wolven. I think it's the name of those. And some police officers who know some secrets, and a few strange people, more magicians and well, people who are aware of the true reality behind the lie. So this is an excellent source book for playing in New York. I use it for that. I played the campaign, which is called Fallen Angels.
You played more than the
yes,
campaign,
but I played
right?
much more, and I use the information here and the characters because they don't die necessarily at the end of this story. Some of them might survive. Okay, so Fallen Angels is done. Yes, that's probably another example. Orpheum Lofts. Orpheum Lofts is good to use as a soap opera, a weird soap opera, because if you are not, unless you're playing this as a giallo, but if you're not playing this as a giallo, it can be used for something different, because there are, this one is basically what I was saying before. You have a place, which is the lofts, the Orpheum Lofts, the building. You have a cast of characters. You have, for each character, what is on the other side of the page, relationships to other characters. And this creates a web of intrigue among these characters, and then there is a secondary cast, the rest of the neighbors in the building, and well, let's say
it was let's say it was partially inspired on Friends when it was first written.
Yeah,
So,
well, it was,
well, that was just an excuse.
Yes, it was more of an excuse than really.
But it's funny to say that. Oh, this is a giallo and it's based on Friends.
Friends is not
a soap opera. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I had never seen Friends. So I saw an episode or two, so I could understand.
Yeah, the guys live in the same building in the Air Friends. So.
But well, you have more series, and also Seinfeld.
Yes.
Mad About You. They were, and those ones I had seen, but I wasn't really thinking about that. That was basically an excuse. I was more thinking about soap operas, though they usually aren't located in the same building. People live in different places, but anyway, it's.
If you have a low budget for a soap opera,
yeah, probably. I think
that there's probably
some soap operas that are in the same building. So now there's something that I didn't game master, you did. So
yeah, so I probably
is,
need to want that's, I think it's obvious. Okay, this is a Vice Squad, so this is inspired on Miami Vice.
And
exactly.
Grand Theft Auto.
Yes, exactly.
The colors.
So you have all the descriptions about Vice Miami Nights, so the city. You have places.
This is for playing with
it's to play the Vice Squad.
genre diversion from Big Games. Yeah, it was called Big Games. Now it's called Precious Intermediate Gaming.
I like the name Big.
Yeah,
so it has everything. It has a lot of, it has places, it has locations, it has some characters.
I think this only exists in PDF. I had it printed because we like paper.
Yeah, but it doesn't, I like it, it's very pink.
Yeah, so this isn't famous, but just an example that
just to show something different, the different style. You can play, you can play a investigative game as a soap opera.
And you have a lot of, this one has lots of descriptions about places. Yes, downtown Miami, you have several places.
You have restaurants, you have bars, everything that you need if you're a Vice Cop in Miami.
Yes, Coconut Grove, Little Havana, Miami Beach. Yeah, that's a lot of this is.
Yeah, and you also have random events. Yes, you have a lot of random events.
Trivia.
That could and yeah, you have lots of trivia about the 80s. That is
what was the Unabomber's real name? I don't remember. Okay, I just failed. Now let's go into another example. This is a book for Mutant Chronicles, the Modifius 2D20 version. This is there is a similar thing for the first and second edition, but it's a small book and it doesn't. Well, it's just about freelancers. This one is Luna and Freelancers. Now, Freelancers are basically the characters who don't belong to any faction.
So they should be the player characters if you want to get a party together of different
but this it takes place in Luna. Luna is a place, basically
it's the moon.
Yeah,
so it's a city in the moon.
Yeah, it's a city in the moon. Yeah, that's it. A big city, a very large city in the moon, where all the factions are represented. And because of that, you can interact, because usually, you probably don't know Mutant Chronicles, so Mutant Chronicles has several factions and the factions are at war with each other. In Luna, there's kind of a truce and you can play different characters from different factions without
every faction has their own location in Luna, right?
They have neighborhoods, yes, areas for those. So you have a description of all those neighborhoods and places, and you have characters here also, and plot hooks, and the words, maps, and
the only thing that that one is missing is the noir vibe that the old one had, right? The old one
was
more noir.
There's a chapter for that, but it doesn't really work. Well, also because it's not noir, the book itself. So there's something curiously similar, because it's also about the moon, which I can't show because I haven't anymore. I sold it, I think, which is a book for the game Trinity. Now it doesn't exist with that name. I think it's called, they changed it slightly. It's Continuum, Trinity Continuum or something like that.
It's narrative.
Onyx Path. No, it's just rubbish.
Okay, I know.
They watered it down. I think it's well, it was already a bit strange, but now it's childish probably. There was a Lunar Rising, I think it was the name of the book. And
I think I remember seeing that one.
It was also very good. It was something like this also. So places, characters, and description. There's a cat there. And it works. Usually, it's the closed space, like a city on the moon or a space station. No, it is another example. This one is more OSR style. Of course, it's for Machinations of the Space Princess, and you have tables. But even though the tables aren't a problem, because what you want for this is a sandbox. It works the same as a sandbox, even though this one is more for the events and the kind of things that you usually find. But anyway, it's by Green Gym, so it's always a mix of things. So you find here, you can play this as pure OSR, but there's a lot of
it has the
information here,
potential to be used
lots of characters, and
another way.
it's probably not a soap opera, but you can well, you can add somehow.
You know,
It would be a sexy soap
yes,
opera.
exactly. X-rated. I think when you talk about soap opera, it's a bit of the dramatic, right? The story. So let's remember people that we're not talking about the cheesiness, though a little bit of cheesiness doesn't harm.
No, there's not.
It's fun now and then.
Yeah. So something more. Postcards from a Valley, that is mostly the same.
Yeah,
thing.
it's not a soap opera. It has nothing of a soap opera, but it does have the same structure about of places and people.
Places, people, connections between them. In this case, there are other stuff. There are corporations and there are organizations, political movements,
and trends.
Trends, yes. So all that.
Fashion trends, musical trends.
Well, since it is the future, there are some things that have to be explained in a contemporary game. You don't need that. Well, in the past, you have to explain, for example, the Cities of the Seven Sins have some information about historical things and places because it's in Portugal. But anyway, the structure is always the same because that's how I've been playing role-playing games for more than 30 years.
You're old.
But yes, I am, but I didn't start at the beginning playing like that. I played Dungeons at the beginning, and then
Call of Cthulhu.
Call of Cthulhu, so I've adopted the typical way of playing Call of Cthulhu, investigation. When we got into Vampire, it was more intrigue. Years later, I decided to do things. I probably didn't decide it. It just happened.
And you did have your players writing their story.
In Vampire, yes, of course. But not after that. When I started doing this, also that's another thing. If you, as a game master, develop a lot of story, a lot of background story, not for your characters, but for the whole the environment. You don't the characters won't need that much of a story because the story is already there, so you can avoid that also. And there are other places, there are other things that you can play. For example, it's not a source book, it's an actual game. So has the a state is because it takes place in a city, even though it's a large city, I think, but it creates that same environment that probably near city also, even though that one isn't so developed, but it's a small book and it has rules in it. So, but it's probably because everything that's in an enclosed space, usually it's easier because you have less to describe. You don't have a whole world to describe. I think probably the Genesis has a lot of information. So certainly one of those books has a location like this. Well, probably more than one because there are many books. So I think that one of those cities described in the Genesis. Well, I'm pretty sure because there are characters described. They have lots of characters described, lots of maps, and it's not usually it's not big places. It's not huge cities. It's small cities. I would say that maybe you can turn some of those freely games into this, but they are meant to be another kind of sandbox, an event and conflict, but in the intrigue sense and the combat sense, not in the dramatic sense. But you probably can develop one of those, picking up those things and adding some more information about people and not just their stats and their interests. I can't remember anything else, but I'm pretty sure. Well, okay, there's probably, I think Strixhaven was meant to be that. It's a college.
Could be the idea, it's a closed place.
But it's a piece of shit. Because they don't know how to do that.
Yeah, now I was thinking, I don't know, Planescape Torment very well, but they also have a city, right? That
I think
so that could probably.
Yes, probably there's something for Dungeons and Dragons that could be played like this. I'm pretty sure that there's something, and well, there's.
I know Griffith will
40
say
years
there is
of
Blackmore.
Yeah, no, not
But
like
that is
not
the
not this, not
village,
like
so I think
this.
that's
Yeah, no,
too
not exactly
too
like this.
small.
It's different. It's a different kind of.
Yeah.
You would probably you would not want to play this anyway. So, not it's not the same spirit. The old Dungeons and Dragons. It's a different kind of thing. This is meant, but fifth edition should do it because that's supposedly
Yeah, I think the
what those
people that
guys
want to
want.
play want something more urban and want
They
something
want
more.
something more, yeah,
They want,
more
yes, like
cosmopolitan,
Starbucks.
but they
There's
want to.
nothing more
Yeah,
urban
but
than
the thing is, that's
Starbucks.
not the way to play story related games, story based games. It's not that. That's not the way. It could be, but not at least not how they do it. It's ridiculous. You don't want to.
You see, I said we're gonna talk bad about people.
Yeah.
No, it's just to do
So
that.
Strixhaven,
Yes.
it's a bad example. Um, but I'm pretty sure the Dungeons and Dragons can be played like that, but without falling into the same traps that Wizard of the Coast has been falling. Probably, well, for example, The Witcher is probably good. No, not the game itself. I don't know because we had the core book, but
If you
that's
did like what I did, I just
yeah.
knocked off the
Yeah, I
Witcher
mean,
3. So I went to get locations from the
yeah,
Witcher 3, and that
I
was
was
the
thinking about that. Witcher 3 is a huge world, but it has I can't remember how many
cities,
cities, but there are,
at least 2 big cities, if
yeah.
I'm not mistaken.
And one of those was very rich.
Yeah, and one of those was the one that we used to play, that I used to
Yeah, I
game
can't
after the
remember
campaign. I don't remember the name
the
of
name
the
of the
city
city,
anymore.
but well, that place there, and if you can think about other games like those, perhaps Fallout,
Yes.
not the
Now
first
there
ones,
is a, yeah,
but
but now
Fallout
you have,
3
yeah.
and Fallout New Vegas.
Now you have the role play. If I played the Fallout, I probably would not spend too much time in the wasteland. I would be
Yeah.
on the city. Of course,
Yeah, New
you need to
Vegas
go
is
out,
excellent.
exactly. You need to go out of the city to do missions, but then you go back to the city, and there should be interesting things happening in the city.
Well, New Vegas is an excellent example, even though, of course, that's a small city. But then you have Fallout 4, that the game is not so good, but the city is a good example because it's larger, a bit larger, the stadium.
Yeah, but okay, that's a computer game, but yeah,
Yeah,
it can
okay,
be adapted. Yeah,
there
very.
are, well, you can't.
It has a role play now, so it's the same
Yes,
as
it's the
the
same thing.
Witcher.
So you can probably just pick up the Wikipedia, the wiki, the Fallout wiki, or whatever the name of that, because probably some of your players know and have played, probably all have played Fallout, but you can still go there and look at it and take the idea of it. There's characters, there's places, there's organizations and gangs, and that's it. That's a world there. I love to play New Vegas. It was particularly immersive. So that's what you want, and that's the advantage of a story and the connections. A story, a strong story for a strong backstory for a campaign, not for a character but for a campaign. Those NPCs and information about the NPCs and the places and all that.
A world
creates,
where the characters can move.
yeah,
basically.
that's so things are happening and people have their own minds and they aren't just automatons.
Yeah.
They are of course in the computer game they are kind of artificial intelligence, but not in a role-playing game.
Some plays the game master intelligence.
It depends on the game master, I suppose. If the game master is a moron, it may not work, but anyway, if you have some information about all those things, the game turns into a more immersive experience. And that's what you want, I think. If you don't want, you want something else, so forget about this, it's not for you. But if you want an immersive experience, and if you want to remember the story that happened and that was created by playing and interpreting characters, I think that having some effort doing this kind of preparation would be good, unless you are an immensely skilled improvisator. Yeah, you probably don't need this. I'm not that good at improvisation. I like to improvise small things.
When you improvise, all your characters have a bad temper. I don't know why.
Yeah, that's I think I know why that is. So, but well, improvisation, of course, is always needed. But if you have some effort doing this kind of preparation, and
Yeah, it makes it easier.
yeah, and it's not as it doesn't take that long. You can, including you can steal ideas from other things. Just don't stick to it, because then the characters, the player characters, will conflict with the story, because the players themselves can understand that. Well, they know what if they know the story, if they pick up the clues that is told this from there, so I can do this, and well, okay, that's probably not a good idea. But if you change it enough, you can even you could basically don't necessarily have to work so hard for that. Well, I don't think I have anything else to add to this.
I have nothing to say.
Okay.
Just crap. So give us your suggestions of games that you think you could apply.
Yeah, and something some more of those source books that could work in this way.
Yeah,
because,
I'm actually interested in knowing what people will come up with.
Especially for games that I do not know.
Yes, exactly.
Maybe, well, why not? You can give it a try. So, okay.
So that's all, folks. See
Bye
you
bye.
next.